Welcome back to Real Talk with Chuck and Pam. We have a very full schedule for talking about movies this week. You talk about it being feast or famine. Man, we are overloaded with this feast.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting because I think that we're going to disagree more than once on a couple of things.
Well, that just makes it fun now, doesn't it?
Yep, yep. Why don't we start with one that is kind of a throwaway movie, but I think we both liked A Family Affair.
That sounds wonderful. I was quite shocked by the fact that I liked it because it was almost identical to Anne Hathaway's movie, The Idea of You. Did you see that as well?
Did, yeah. I
Um,
liked that one. I liked it a little bit more than you did, but I liked this one, Family Affair, more.
I definitely did. I really was kind of disgusted by the idea of you. I found it to be extremely cringeworthy, but this one is not. A Family Affair stars Joey King as Zara. She's a young woman. She thinks that she's going to be a movie producer because that's the person that she works for, Chris Cole, played by Zac Efron. That's what he has promised her, but she ends up just being basically like his gopher. Well, she's had enough, and after they do their little banter, I quit, no, you're fired, and it seems like that's what their relationship is. It's almost like a brother-sister relationship. It's kind of fun to watch them fight. She finally actually quits. And then she goes home and tells her mom, Brooke, played by Nicole Kidman. And then Chris realizes he can't function without Zara. And so he goes to try and get her to change her mind. Well, Zara lives with her mom. And you guessed it, Chris meets Brooke and the two fall in love. There is a bit of an age difference there. Brooke is about 16 years older in the movie than Chris, and they have to try and, I guess, figure out how to navigate this relationship. And the difficulty is Zara, who just can't seem to understand the situation. Her father died about 11 years ago, and Brooke has been in mourning since then and just really hasn't gotten on with her life. We meet Grandma, played by Kathy Bates. When isn't Kathy Bates amazing? And she helps with her love and her wisdom and age guide both Brooke and Zara and eventually Chris to try and find out the right paths for each of them. It was a funny movie. I laughed out loud several times. I think that everyone had fun with their roles. I think that Joey King was a little over the top, but I think that was where we got the laughs, and she played it like she needed to. There is a definite formula here, but as you and I have always said, Chuck, there needs to be a chemistry between your lead characters, and there is. Kidman and Efron have that chemistry. They're seasoned actors, and so they know how to lean into some of the subtleties of acting to make these characters more believable. I really had a lot of fun with it, and it's on Netflix.
Well, yeah, it's on Netflix. They had done a movie before called The Paperboy, which I did not like. But yeah, so they have, an off-screen, friendship, obviously. Yeah, it's a fantasy. I mean, who wouldn't fall in love with Nicole Kidman? I mean, no matter her
Or
age.
or Zac Efron and his abs.
Right. I mean, yeah, this is pure fantasy. I read a great description of this, which I never heard. Maybe you're aware of it. It was called a white wine movie.
Oh, that's a really good description. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I don't know who said it, but I was like, oh, this is perfect. Yeah, you're sitting around, you're drinking some wine with your girlfriends or whatever, and it's just kind of there, and you laugh and you chuckle, and oh, isn't that cute?
Right.
Uh, yeah, no, and you're right. I'll still defend the Anne Hathaway movie a little bit, but it's all about tone. This one just has a lighter tone to it. It really walks that line between comedy, but also it's serious because we find out each of these people have insecurity and are all legitimate, all make sense. And I love how it all wraps up in the end. It didn't seem forced, it seemed logical. Yeah, it's not one you're going to think much about, but it was a pleasant way to spend, an hour and 45 minutes.
Yep, totally agree. So check that out on Netflix now.
Yes, now. Ow. Ow. All right. Are we going to get into the area where we disagree now?
I think
What
the
do we
rest
have
of them,
left?
I think, well, we got two movies that we both have seen, and then two movies that only one of us has seen. So let's temper this a little bit and let's talk a little bit about Horizon. I want to hear your thoughts on that movie, and then we're going to have everyone listen to a clip from the interview you did with Kevin Costner.
Yes, and thank you for that. It should be known that we often do interviews together. Only one of us could go, and Miss Powell was gracious enough to let me do this. Thank you, thank you. Horizon. This is a 4-film epic that Costner has wanted to make for years. He's invested up to 40 million of his own dollars in these movies. The first one is done, comes out today. The second one comes out in about 6 weeks, August 16th. He's filming the third. So, I mean, we're making no small plans here at all. This first one, I've heard the term table setting in conjunction with this, and that is what this is, where we're getting a lot of the foundation for this story set. There's about 5 different storylines going on, and they all revolve around this settlement called Horizon, which is nothing really but a tent city. But I'm assuming that as these films go on, it's going to become a town, and that all of these storylines are going to converge at Horizon. With a movie like this, we've got so many different stories going on. Of course, some are going to be more compelling than others. And when we pull away from the ones that are really good, it lags. It lags. There's a great storyline involving a wagon train. Luke Wilson is the head of the wagon train, and they are struggling across the prairie, or they're about to enter the desert. There's dissension among the ranks. He's trying to get everyone calm, and that is really, really good. The storyline involving Costner is good. He finds himself on the run with a prostitute. They are taking care of a child that is not their own. They're being chased by some really, really bad people. That one is engaging. The others, so-so. Sienna Miller plays a woman whose family has been wiped out. She's starting to have a relationship with Sam Worthington, who plays a cavalry officer. She has a preteen daughter who also has issues to deal with because she witnessed this massacre. And there's a couple other things going on as well. It's a lot. It is a
Sounds
lot.
like it.
And at times, it comes off as, at times it's very disjointed. At times, there are obvious miscalculations. Costner spends the first 45 minutes on the one storyline of the settling of Horizon, and it becomes a bit much. He doesn't show up in the movie until after an hour. And that is a miscalculation. It's frustrating. There are times when I felt as though we were dropped in the middle of a conversation or a sequence and we missed something. But it's also fantastic at times. I mean, Utah, you've been to Utah, and I told you they filmed it all in Utah, and the Utah Tourism Board should use this film because he's in every place. He's in the mountains, he's in the desert, he's out on the plains. I mean, it is a gorgeous film, and when the stories are working, it's great stuff. The last 5 minutes is basically an extended preview of what is coming. There's enough good stuff here to get me interested in revisiting Horizon when the second part comes out. Going to have patience with this one. I have faith that it will pay off, but this is not the home run start that I think that Costner was hoping for.
All right. Something that you and I have discussed, and I know that you talked about in the interview with Costner, is the fact that we actually focus on women and how important women were in the West. Why don't we take a listen to that portion of the interview?
One of the things I really liked about the film that was refreshing to me was that you put the female characters front and center.
Women dominate Horizon. The West doesn't go forward without women. We don't make it without women, and so often in Westerns are sidebars. Not in Horizon. They dominate with their point of view, with the pain, and how vulnerable they are. And that doesn't let up. As you come to 2, these stories completely begin to mesh. It wasn't easy for them. And just the act of bathing could provide drama.
Yeah, and it's got to be rough. I mean, the Western's been done to death. How do you come up with a fresh angle? And this is definitely a fresh angle. I'd be hard pressed to think of a Western in which the female characters are so strongly presented and also just play such a key role in everything that's going on. And as they say, I'm assuming that this is going to expand in the second part as well. So kudos to him for covering this this part of the genre that's been neglected for far too long.
Very good. Thank you, Chuck, for going and seeing the movie. I know it was quite the event that they put on in Chicago, and for talking with Kevin Costner and relaying my message to him.
No problem. It was a trial, but I got through
it. All right, let's go ahead and tackle one that I think we might disagree on, and that one is Daddy-O. Christy Hall writes and directs this movie starring Dakota Johnson and Sean Penn. And I believe those are the only two characters we meet. I can't think of anybody else that we actually meet because this takes place in a New York City cab, kind of a dying breed. And Sean Penn is a seasoned old timer kind of cabbie from New York, and Dakota Johnson is a transplant in New York City. The two of them end up having a long conversation about life and relationships because they keep hitting detours, construction, accidents, what have you, and making a rather long trip from JFK into Manhattan, an even longer one. We find out that Dakota's life hasn't exactly taken the path that she had hoped it would. And we find out that Sean Penn's character also has some regrets in life, but he also loves to share his wisdom and his knowledge and his thoughts as to what Dakota Johnson's character should be doing. I got a little bored with this. I wasn't quite sure where it was going and why it was exploring things in the way that it was. And I felt like Sean Penn's character of Clark just got a little bit too much and a little too much mansplaining for me. How about you, Chuck?
I'm surprised at your reaction to that. Yeah, I guess he was a mansplainer, but this was written and directed by a woman, so there's that as well.
I know.
I don't know. I felt I was compelled throughout. I was hooked on this thing. And I think I felt the script was pretty solid. And when you have a pretty solid script and you give it to these two or two people as talented as this, I mean, I know that she conceived it first as a stage play, and you can see that immediately. Immediately, you can see how that would have been set up. And ironically, they filmed this on a soundstage.
Okay.
I read that most of it, the cab sequences, were actually on a soundstage, and they inserted, the stuff around them. It doesn't seem that way, and obviously there are some scenes where they're steady. But no, I agree. The character becomes much too intrusive. But then again, I got the impression that the Dakota Johnson character named Gurley, that's all he calls her, she never volunteers her name. Mm-hmm. I felt as though she wanted to talk. I felt this character was bothered. She needed to talk. And, you and I think have both mentioned that sometimes it's better to talk to a stranger than a friend.
Right. You can admit a lot more with no judgment. And I think she admitted a lot, but I also think she got the judgment.
She did. You're right. I'm not sure if she wanted that. And certainly she is trapped. I mean, where is she going to go? But again, I think that the Penn character would have respected had she said, "Hey, enough. I don't want to hear anymore."
Right.
But she never does. She never does. And, there are daddy issues at play.
Oh, yeah.
She admits that as well. And I think that keys into their brief relationship, too. She's never had a father figure, I got the impression, that listened to her, that would offer her advice, that would consider her and her feelings. It's certainly not the guy who she's involved with, mm-hmm. who we get some sense of because she's texting with him as this conversation is going on. And it's obvious that he's a bore. And it's obvious she's not too happy with him as far as this relationship. She's hooked emotionally, but she can see that this guy isn't what she needs. She can see, that he's a sexist guy, that the way he treats her at times is not what she needs. So I'm hoping that at the end of this movie, she makes some big decisions and takes care of herself. That's what I was left with, the hope that maybe she takes this advice and builds upon it.
Okay. I felt like there was a little bit more of a finite left turn at that end than you did. I think you feel like it took a right turn, and I think it took a left turn, and I was disappointed.
Okay. All right. All right. Interesting.
Great,
Interesting.
great acting for both, though. And I do feel like they are incredible actors that can pull off a two-person play, basically.
And she continues to impress me. You
She's
know,
amazing. Yeah,
you know, her and Jamie Dornan. I mean, they got their start in those crappy movies.
right.
We both knew they were better than those crappy movies. And I'm so glad that they've both been able to expand and find projects worthy of their talent. I'll watch about anything she's in, maybe not Madam Web again, but she's got that charisma, she's got that talent, and throwing herself into the ring with Sean Penn and holding her own, that's no small feat.
Right. That says an awful lot about who she is as an actress. So yeah, they were both impressive. I just felt like it just got to be a little too one-sided. I was shocked actually when I saw that a woman had written and directed it. Shocked and maybe a little
Sorry about that.
disappointed. Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
I'm sorry about that.
Me too. Me too.
So let's cover one that you saw that I did not, and talk about a very unique interview that you had.
Yeah.
Quiet Place. What's it called? Quiet Place Day One.
Day One, A Quiet Place, Day One. If you saw the original,
Before you start, what did you think of the other two?
the first Quiet Place,
Yeah.
there was not another one after that, was there? Did I miss one?
Yes, there was. There's been two.
Jeepers Creepers. I missed. How did I hold on here?
Are you doubting me?
I am. Ah,
You're
Jeepers.
doubting me.
No, I'm doubting my memory. Did I miss that one?
You missed that one.
No, I did not. I saw that one. That's a little girl who's truly deaf and the cochlear implant. Saw it. Okay. It escaped me for a little bit. So this is the third part. Sorry about that.
The third part, that's the first part.
The third part that is actually the first part. I feel like we're doing a Star Wars thing here. The prequel to the sequel,
Exactly.
the
It's
prequel
exactly what
to
we're
the
doing.
prequel. And that stuff drives
Right.
me nuts. And this one, I'm gonna go back now. That's funny that I completely forgot about that.
Well, that says something about the movie, don't you think?
It does. It does. And I'm never generally a fan of sequels. I thought A Quiet Place, the original, was wonderful. I really enjoyed it, but I still remember the guy in front of me, sitting in front of me with a like a Sun Chips bag, those bags that used to be super, super loud. And
Frankly, yeah.
yeah, and that drove me nuts. And this one that I went to, the movie theater was packed, which was an early screening, which I was surprised. And they made it fun. They were talking during the movie, but it didn't bother me because they were like stating what was happening, and it was funny. Actually, I think that was a little bit more entertaining maybe than the movie itself. It stars Lupita Nyong'o as Sam, and she is in hospice care. She gets a chance to go into New York City. Alex Wolff plays the nurse who gives her the opportunity to go back into New York, where her home is, where she was raised. And all she wants is to get pizza. She knows her days are numbered. She's not going to be around very long. And she just wants pizza from Patsy's. That is her goal. They end up taking this hospice bus into New York, looks like somewhere in Manhattan. And they go to a marionette play. Which is kind of funny. As the play goes on, they realize they need to evacuate the city because something horrible is happening. Well, you know what it is. It's these crazy monsters that have invaded the earth, and they're killing everybody because people make noise, and it's irritating. All these noises are irritating. It's kind of interesting. In the very beginning, it says New York City has a constant hum at 90 decibels. 95 decibels is considered damaging to your hearing. 95 decibels is what a jet plane is. 110 to 115 decibels is what those cicadas up north were like, I guess. I never saw any of them or heard any of them. So interesting that, these monsters can't stand noise. Maybe I'm a little bit of a monster myself because I don't like it either. Anyway, so They are looking for refuge. There's explosions everywhere, and Sam is hurt, and she's rescued by her nurse, and things just go awry, one thing after another. You know what's going to happen. Somebody makes a sound, somebody does something, and they get demolished. Here's a weird thing. Sam has a cat. The cat is as much of a character in this movie as any of the people. And
I read that.
I think this is going to do wonders for shelters that have cats because they made this cat look better than my dogs. This cat was leash trained, didn't pull. This cat stuck around. This cat was able to do so much and understood so much, was so attached, so cuddly. And the whole time, like an explosion would happen and the cat's missing. I'm like, Jesus, don't kill the cat. I'm always the animal lover. Don't hurt the animals. And, the cat was pretty cool.
There should be a disclaimer on this film then that real cats don't act like this.
I know, right? Don't expect any rescue cat to do what this cat does. There's really actually, here's a little aside. There's a really good short documentary on Netflix about the behavior of cats. It's really interesting to watch. And I wonder if one of those cats that they featured in that documentary was actually the actor in this movie.
It's a movie cat.
It is definitely a movie cat. I'm looking through IMDb right now to see if it's credited, and it is not. Anyway.
So what about this interview you did in correlation with this?
Well, here, okay, I'm going to finish this real quickly. She runs into this guy. He's played by Joseph Quinn, and his name is Eric in the movie. And he reacts to this invasion a little differently. And the two of them pair up together in order to survive. So that brings me to this interview that I did today. And it was with Dan Baird, and he runs the California Survival School. And he has done all sorts of trekking with like National Geographic, Good Morning America, out in these remote places. He teaches people how to survive and to keep them safe. So he runs this school, and I was able to interview him to talk a little bit about how these characters in A Quiet Place survived or didn't, and what his take on it was. And we had a really interesting conversation. I kind of dropped the hint that I do a lot of backpacking and hiking, and a lot of people do that.
You're subtle like that.
I am subtle, aren't I? Yeah. Like a bulldozer. And I asked him, what do you do? Because a lot of people are hiking and backpacking this time of year. And I did say that I was going to do that as well. Tried to make it as personal as I could. And so he gave some really good information. And then I had a really fun question. In fact, I'm going to leave it there, and we're going to play that part of my interview with Dan Baird. Was there one moment in the film that you were like, no, don't do that?
Yeah, I think for me, there's a scene where the government comes in and was telling people, you need to head to the water. And even though everybody at this point had kind of been hiding and following their instincts, we just had everybody start piling out into the streets. And our main character was a little bit more cautious on handling the situation to start, and made some good calls, because things get pretty crazy pretty quick, and we can see what happens when you just do something without really processing it.
That sounds really cool.
It was the movie was mediocre at best. The first one, like I said, was the best one. The second one apparently was not memorable to me. And this one would have been good if they would have used this in the first one, the first 10 minutes, to give us an intro as to what might have happened. That would have been fun.
Interesting.
Yeah, so having a backstory about what happened is great, but don't take me back in time. Please don't do a fourth one where we go further back or further ahead, and then I have to keep track of which three were the first three. That just drives me nuts, and I lose interest.
I'll help you. I'll help.
Will you help me?
I'll help you out with that. Yeah, that happens. I got your back.
All right. Thank you very much. But yes, that was a fun interview. So we've had two really cool interviews this week.
So here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go. Here we go. The one that is probably the most divisive between us this week is Kinds of Kindness. And this is from Yorgos Ilathamos. I think I've got his name almost correct.
Almost. You were so darn close.
I was close. He has done The Lobster, a film I loved with Colin Farrell and Rachel Weisz.
Too.
Love that film. The Favorite with Olivia Colman, Rachel
Loved
Weisz
it.
again, and Emma Stone. Poor Things, which got Emma Stone her second Oscar, a movie I loved that you did not.
Correct.
And now this with Stone again and Jesse Plemons and Willem Dafoe, who also is back from Poor Things. I'm not even sure how I could describe this movie. The basic setup is that there are, I know you are. I know you've already got your knife sharpened. It's three different stories. The same cast is in all three of these short films. They play different characters in each of the movies. A lot of strange things happen. A lot of things happen that really have no explanation. I felt at times I was watching like three very perverse episodes of The Twilight Zone.
Okay, I equated it to Black Mirror, like 3 bad episodes of Black Mirror.
This is not for all tastes. I found it challenging. It's going to be hard to defend. I'm sure that most anything you say, I will maybe not agree with, but understand where you're coming from. I thought it was very funny at times in the darkest way. I was never bored. And I got the impression that all the performers were having a good time. This is going to spark a lot of conversation if you go and see it. And I think at the bottom of it all is that these stories and so many of his films have to do with power dynamics and the things that we allow people to do to us, the things that people do to us, and why they do them. And yeah, at about this point, that's about all I got. I'm still thinking about it. I just saw it yesterday.
All right. It's unique. I like the Twilight Zone and I like some of the Black Mirror, which is what I think I think we're both on the same track with how we're looking at that. And I like having the 3 vignettes. I think that's interesting. And they do tie together at the very, very end in a very brief way. But it wasn't a surprising way. I don't know. I kind of saw that coming. I liked the irony in it, but I did not find that dark humor funny. That was just not my cup of tea. I was frustrated by it. I struggled and I walked, actually, I didn't even walk out of the movie. I turned to the people next to me and I said, wow, this is my WTF movie of the year. So that's how I viewed it. I don't doubt that they had fun doing this. I think they're a great team together. I think Jesse Plemons was amazing in each of his roles and sometimes unrecognizable.
He won the Best Actor Oscar at Cannes for this.
Okay. I can see that. I just think story-wise, it was either too high level for me or just not my style that I can appreciate.
I think this is a litmus test movie. You go in and based on the reaction of people, you know what kind of person that is. And I guess because I laughed at it, that means maybe people should stay away from me. But people who know me, they know where I'm coming from. I know you probably will never see it again.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing it again. Because this is a talented filmmaker. This is a challenging filmmaker. And I'm sure there are a couple levels there that need to be scratched a little bit more. And if I jump back in, I will let you know because I'm sure you're losing sleep over, what those levels are.
Absolutely. I did hear, I saw this with all critics. There was no general audience there. And there were probably 50% of the audience laughed at those dark places that I'm sure you were laughing at. The other 50% were like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So it would, and I think there were probably maybe 2 or 3 women in the audience. The rest were men. So there's that divide as well.
And that's an interesting, those two perspectives I'm sure are very different
Yes.
where this movie is concerned.
Right. And I've found that you and I sometimes overlap a little bit with humor, but I think for the most part, we have a different sensibility when it comes to what's funny. You know?
I think so. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I would agree with that.
and I have to say, I have liked all of Yorgos's films except for Poor Things in this one. I thought Killing of a Sacred Deer was sick and twisted and funny. And I thought The Lobster was hilarious.
Yeah. Well, Sacred Deer is the one that I think goes more in line with this one and Poor Things. I think those three line up really well.
I think that Killing of a Sacred Deer was mild and middle of the road compared to Poor Things, and then compared to this.
But the tone, though, the tone is more similar.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
Lobster and The Favorite, that tone is different in those films. And those movies, I think that even you laughed at. I mean,
gosh,
as
yeah.
serious as they are, there are some really funny moments.
Absolutely.
The humor in this is completely different. Completely different.
You're right. Tone is different. I think
Yeah, tone is different.
Deer just opened the doors for these other two to be even darker.
I agree. So I wish we could get some feedback on this from people. If you take a chance on this one, drop us a line, Koplinski at Gmail. That's me. It's real easy. I would love to get some feedback because, like I say, this one I think invites conversation.
I do too. I would love to hear everybody. I think among critics, it's very polarizing as well. I know Michael Phillips did not like it, and Nick DiGiglio loved it. So 2 totally different people and 2 different opinions.
And this is, even though I know you didn't like it, this is what we want.
Sure.
We're both tired of the cookie cutter stuff. So even though I know you weren't happy with it, at least I hope I know you recognize that it's out of the box, and he's at least trying something.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, give me new stories, give me new ways of looking at things. If it's not my taste, that's fine. And if it's yours, then that's great. And I have to say, people seem to agree with one of us more than the other and vice versa. And that's kind of cool I mean, when we used to watch Siskel and Ebert, I know I generally sided with Siskel more than Ebert. So it's kind of fun to find somebody that you align with and know what's going to appeal to you before you spend not just your money, but your time too.
Yeah, exactly. Because this one isn't short. Comes in at about 2 hours and 40 minutes. So there's that as well. So.
And stick around for the
credits.
Wow,
that was a big week.
It was a big week, wasn't it?
Oh, yes. Stick around for the credits.
And it's both rolling credits, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's it in a nutshell. I think we did a pretty good job of covering everything this week that is out in theaters as well as streaming. Chuck, what do we have next week? I'm not on top of that.
I know you're not. Let's see. We have got Beverly Hills Cop 4.
Okay.
Which hopefully we'll get a screener of. We have got Space Cadet.
Yep.
Which I know you have seen.
Yep.
I have not. We also have Maxine, the third in the Ty West, Mia Goth horror trilogy. And those are the top 3 off the top of my head. I'm sure there are a couple other things out there. It looks to be another full week, maybe not as jam-packed as this one.
All right. Sounds good. Check us out on realtalkwithchuckandpam.com. You can find our interviews on Real Talk with Chuck and Pam YouTube as well as on Facebook. And let us know what you think of these movies and share this podcast. We'd really appreciate it. More ears listening and more feedback, more conversation. That's what movies need to do.